Hello and welcome to the Sacral Circle, where we are healing sexual trauma collectively and lovingly. I'm your host, Janie Terrazas, and I'll be interviewing individuals from all walks of life who have faced sexual trauma or abuse in one form or another and triumphed over their adversity. On every episode, a guest will deliver inspirational support, words of comfort, and empowering healing advice. They'll courageously share how their experiences impacted their lives and what they did to restore their mind, body, heart, and soul. Be sure to subscribe to my podcast, The Sacral Circle. Just search Sacred Stories on iTunes. I want to thank our listeners for joining us today on The Sacral Circle, the self-love haven where we leave judgment at the door. And today I'm very grateful and excited to be with Master Alchemist Elisha Marie. She's the owner of Alchemy Flow. She's a wellness coach and yoga instructor who specializes in stress, trauma, tantra-focused yoga, as well as emotional resilience. She is a Chopra certified primordial sound meditation instructor and also is very involved with Ayurveda. So please welcome my guest, Elisha.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you. I want to let people know where they can connect with you, which is alchemyflowatx.com. That's her website. You want to go check it out. She has a great blog. And you can also connect with her via social media by searching ELISHA Orbit, ORBIT. Again, thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I would love for you to share how this whole journey began for you, because I don't think you really had set out to start Alchemy Flow and do what you're doing as a wellness coach.
No, it's kind of funny because I really love my life now and I'm so happy. But 3 years ago, my whole world was upside down, trying to figure out what the heck just happened.
Oh my gosh, I'm like right there with you. Weird enough, it was about 3 years ago. So anyway,
Yeah.
So your world comes crashing down. What does that look like? What's happening?
Chronic PTSD, no sense of clarity, no sense of direction. I wasn't depressed, but I knew something was just drastically off. And, I had like a rash on my arms. I was always short of breath. I'm high energy, but it was almost like just a nervousness, very unsettled energy, because there was no authenticity in my marriage. Myself, obviously, because I didn't know what to take true from my marriage anymore. My family, I put everything, all of me, into my family and my marriage.
And a lot of women do that. And I know these are the kind of women that tend to gravitate towards you, who have been through some similar stuff, and now you're helping them find their voice and find their authentic self in this whole journey that we go on.
Absolutely. And I listen to other people's stories, and everyone's story is so unique, and everyone's story is special for them, for their own path. So there's not one story that, is better than the other, because they're all unique for us and for our own path.
I believe that, yes.
And I've always been involved in health and fitness and teaching, but nothing has given me a sense of peace to where I'm at right now. And literally just going back to basics.
What did that look like, going back to basics, for you at the time when everything was sort of like the shit was hitting the fan, so to speak?
Like the simplest thing, going back to your breath. Because when I teach, I say your breath is the biggest indicator of what is going on inside. It's telling you what's going on in your central nervous system. Most people walking around today, the breathing stays in the chest, which is constant fight or flight.
Right. It's not diaphragmatic. It's like they don't drop it into the belly and and sort of circulate it through the body. It's very constricted and restricted, which impedes our immune system, because without oxygen, then like you said, they're in that constant state of fight or flight. And people that have experienced trauma, it gets trapped in the body. And I think that's a lot of what you help people to understand. But please go back to the breath and what you were talking about.
Well, it's funny because I'm like, this makes complete sense to me now. And it's like, okay, hold on a second, Elisha. Remember, you were once in that state where it was hard for you to even just regulate your breath, because your mind's going a million miles a minute. You're trying to wrap your head around what the heck just happened. I had a 6-year-old and a newborn. My father just died, and I'm trying to wrap my head around what just happened.
Right.
So I went back to basics. For me, it was movement, like, bar, teaching, dance, music. But then I had to go deeper. And, once you start peeling the layers, it's like an onion, they just keep peeling and peeling and peeling. And once you think you're fine, something else comes and it's 2 steps forward, 5 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. But it's staying consistent and having the resilience to want to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so many people, they get lost because they're searching for the quick fixes when you have everything to fix yourself inside of you.
Right. And it's helping people reconnect to that understanding and that love and that wisdom, and being able to be still enough to access it, to gather the information that's there. And
right.
I know that a lot of people are holding on to trauma. There's a variety of trauma. There's a spectrum of it. And for you, was there any trauma that you experienced as a child? Was there sexual, physical abuse? What was it that you endured? And
I didn't have any trauma growing up, no sexual trauma, but just a very patriarchal, old school, old fashioned father.
Yes. Yeah.
Which, bless his heart, I love him dearly. But he learned the message later on in life. So
thank goodness, by the way.
Yeah,
Not all
right.
men learn it at all. So.
Right. The perfectionism, he was trying to set me up. He was trying to set me up for success, and he did. But also in doing that, there created some, maybe I'm not good enough problems, or, this isn't good enough for me, or maybe it's not good enough for somebody else. And it took the magic away from myself, and it made me forget what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Like I was constantly, okay, I'll do this because my dad said it'd be a good idea. Okay, let's do that. I'll do this. Because what I wanted to do wasn't a path that my father wanted for me.
Yeah. And what was that relationship like between him and your mom? Do you feel that she was very submissive?
Yes. Okay. And don't get me wrong, they loved each other, but it's that old fashioned, that old paradigm dynamic where the woman submits, the man works. Right. She worked too. Yes. But, the caretaker, the divine feminine, divine masculine balance was off. It was more of a power.
You're right. That superiority, inferiority, hierarchy system that takes place between males and females. And oh God, it's so unhealthy. Right.
Mm-hmm. And it didn't start to shift until later on in life, where now, I'm trying to help my mom say, like, it's okay for you to have other friends that are men that you can talk to. Like, you're not doing anything wrong. You're having human connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Because in our culture, in our society, especially in those dynamics, it can be very, very limiting on the type of engagement and connection you can have with people outside of yourself. We see intimacy as really only being between husband and wife, or like sexual intimate partners. But there's such a deeper intimacy that we can have with our friends and even with strangers, and there's a restriction around it.
Well, and I always say, if you don't have intimacy with yourself, you're not going to have it. The intimacy you're looking for in others is not going to happen if you don't have it with yourself. Do you truly know yourself inside and out? Strip down what everybody thinks of you. Are you able to accept yourself for what you want and think for yourself?
Man, and that's so hard for people to even begin to contemplate, because it's so scary.
It's scary, and honestly, it's really sad. Like, I find myself now just hanging out and like people watching and looking at the dynamics of people interacting,
right,
to actually see what their reality is like, or
yeah, like you can see it in their face, how they walk, or the way people are talking to each other, and it's like, oh gosh, you could totally get that point across and say it in such a nicer, more considerate way. We're just so mean and short with each other. It's like,
but that's the thing, and I write about it a lot, is society is missing conscious awareness.
Mm-hmm. Present. They're not present.
They're not present at all, and I was just talking to a friend of mine where he said, someone was talking to me and I didn't even hear what she said. And she's like, "You're not here." And he was like, "You're right. I'm not here. I have so much on my mind." And it's like, okay, what is on your mind? For us to teach presence and mindfulness, stillness, it's like society has labeled the art of doing nothing as being lazy, when it's really not.
Right. We need to reframe it.
Absolutely. 100%.
Oh gosh, and I was just talking to somebody about that balance. You know, people, they don't fully recognize all the layers when it comes to balance, but balance isn't just work and play, but it's also non-action and action. It's like stillness and creating and producing and doing and doing nothing without the
Right.
guilt. Without the guilt and without that weird anxiety of, oh my God, I can't handle boredom. You know, they
Right.
and so I know a lot of your work, it involves helping people reconnect. The communication system's already there between the mind body, but they lack the awareness around the felt senses. And so bringing people.
Absolutely. I just told one of my clients, I said, let's go back to the five senses.
Yes, it's like the five senses, and within those senses creates felt senses in the body. And so you being able to help people connect thoughts and emotions and feelings and the sensations of the body starts to help people feel more empowered, as opposed to this like, oh my God, what's happening? I feel anxiety. Oh, and it's like, no,
Yes,
dude,
100%.
your breath can help you. We're gonna, trust. Just, you gotta like trust the
Well, and
process,
this,
learn it, and practice it when you're not in the heat of it.
right. And the sad part is that we've taken the breath for granted.
Totally. It's the one gift that we have, that one we need to even have an existence. And two, it just happens to be the thing that can help us regulate our nervous system when used with intention.
It's the life force. It's the prana. It's the life force. Like you are pumping life force into your body. So if you're short of breath, you're cutting off the life force.
You were talking about growing up in sort of a very patriarch household, and in your line of work, it was also in fitness. So you're around men. I don't know how things were even for you in school. Sometimes attractive girls put up with a lot more crap in terms of harassment, sexual harassment, or even bullying sometimes, you know?
I was sexually harassed from the assistant principal at my high school.
And in a situation like that, I'm going to assume, and I could be wrong, that you didn't say anything because, of course, we're
No.
conditioned to not
Oh,
say
yeah.
anything.
I
Like,
didn't
we're
say
not
anything
supposed
at
to.
all.
Oh, my goodness.
Right. And that's coming from the assistant principal of my high school.
When that happened, what are the things that you think or that you thought or that you felt, if you can share with people?
You know, when I go back to that time, I felt embarrassed and speechless and almost kind of like WTF, you know? And like these are people that I'm supposed to be looking up to. And this is in a Catholic high school.
Oh my God, you just took it to like another level. So, what were your go tos in terms of self care? Obviously, yoga was a big thing.
Yeah, it was like, I took my first yoga class. I've done yoga before, but I had never taken a hot yoga class. And I took the class and I was like, that was amazing. I've always been like a workout junkie, working out, where now I've just come to the understanding that working out and moving was actually a way for me to be like highly empathic, to kind of move energy, where yoga allowed me to tap into my own sense of energy and try to understand what's actually going on internally, and then connecting the body to the mind.
Yes,
So it like bridging the two
absolutely. I
with
love
the breath.
using. Yes, it's like the breath helps you bridge the two.
hmm But when you're running on the treadmill, that's not going through your mind. And now I'm like, okay, Alicia, are you losing it? Are you going crazy? Now I actually look at a gym, and maybe this is just my perspective because I competed in Fitness America. I've done the extremes. I've worked out in the gym, out of the gym. I can't stand the gym. I look at the gym and I honestly think it just adds to the addiction, because people go, they work out in the gym, they think they're, feeling good. They're trying to make themselves feel better. But I always say it's like shaking up a glitter jar. You shake up a glitter jar, and then you walk out of the gym and the endorphins subside, and then you're back to the same crap. So if you don't address the mind, you're kind of just on this hamster wheel, right?
Right, that's how I feel. It's like, yeah, it's like half-heartedly getting to the root of everything.
And like, what's your intention? What's your true intention for the workout? Okay, I could lose 5 pounds, whatever. People are always like trying to be the better versions of themselves. I get that. But let's go back to the body that God gave us.
Right, the miracle that it is.
Yeah. Why are we trying to be something we're not? And I'm learning as I go too, because trust me, I was caught up in that whole world. I got to look like this, I got to act like this, and don't get me wrong, I've got extensions, I've got implants.
Sure.
That was a dumb move. Extensions, that's just my thing. I love
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Could I take them out and be okay? Yeah, but
They're fun. Like, it's okay that you,
Yeah,
yeah. And I understand it's also that balance. It's like you're finding the value in
right.
yourself outside of just your appearance. And then for women, especially in the line of work you were in around fitness, and I believe you're also in California, and it's, in LA of all places, I think, or at least in that area.
Right.
And the culture and society and everything that tells us like what we're supposed to look like and what defines our beauty and our work. So you, like, going through your onion layers, were really just having to rewire all of that for yourself. I'm going through the same
Absolutely.
thing. Ugh.
Oh yeah, and it could be, a little bit nerve-wracking because you're you're having to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, this is everything I've known, but it's not working. And I need to make a change, but I'm really scared because I don't know what that change is.
Getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. I think you wrote
Mm-hmm.
something about that, or maybe did a video about it. But yeah, it's like, where do you start building that type of mindset? When somebody has
You have
got
to go
that,
in.
you've got to go in. When you started going inward, what kind of support system did you have? I know that you were doing yoga, and obviously you had your yoga community, but was there anyone that was right there by your side?
With me, I had a very dear family friend who was a very good friend of my father's that I would talk to often. And was seeing a marriage counselor at the time, and he was a support for me because it's kind of all I had at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's things now when I looked back on those sessions, it was like, why did he say this to me? Why didn't he have me do that? But you're meeting your client where they're at in
That's
that
true.
moment. So I can understand that. But I'm a constant doer and I need to research everything. I mean, if I'm addicted to anything, I'm addicted to books. I have so many books at home and it's like, can you just finish this one before you pick this other one up?
I know.
It's a problem.
I love them too. I love that you are an avid learner. It's really tapping into that curiousness, because it helps when you're going on the self-love journey that you're on. I know the man that you ended up marrying ended up being a narcissist. You kind of fell into that empath narcissist dynamic. I don't know where you are in the healing process of that relationship. What kind of trauma did that leave behind?
Oh, where do I start with that one?
Uh,
You definitely learn boundaries. I always say, I got a master lesson from a master.
Ooh, I know it.
Right. And
I was
I
like, I had
scratch
the
my
most.
head and I'm like, I signed up for this? I did? Can I see the contract where I signed my name?
I know.
But I swear, when I met him, I literally felt like divinely pushed to him. Oh my God, it was the oddest thing. So,
Oh,
now I can say I'm thankful for it all.
mhm.
I have the utmost compassion for him. And, I send him love and compassion and healing. People who are like that are also deeply hurting themselves really, really bad.
Oh, absolutely. They're that far into the dark, and you're right. And a person can only be acting in that manner if they themselves had major abuse, neglect, or whatever it was that got them to split off themselves so far.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably not a day that goes by that I look back in like the decade of my marriage and say, "Oh my gosh, remember that? Oh my gosh, remember that?" Where I wasn't able to put two and two together anymore. But now, as the veil slowly keeps peeling the layers back, I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, Alicia, why didn't you see that?"
Oh, oh, I know. I
But I'm like,
know.
that's okay. It's okay. Be thankful for it. Send
Yes,
it love and
yes.
compassion and I really want to say if to other women that are experiencing this out there, just because you were in that space doesn't mean you're that less of a woman. It
Right.
just means it's just all part of the lesson and the awakening process. So just be thankful for it. Like, don't beat yourself up over it and just trust and know that that's how things were supposed to unfold to put you
Absolutely.
on a better path.
Yes, because now we have identified the contrast, the stark contrast to what it looks like when we don't have healthy boundaries, what fear based love looks like compared to healthy, mature, mindful, soul based love, And now we can be much more, we have more wisdom. We have wisdom now, so we can carry it into the next relationship. And, uh, and when we see those red flags, we'll be like, aha,
Right. Well,
not
and
this
pay
time.
attention. Exactly. Pay attention to how you feel. Like,
Talk a little bit about that. Like, what is
when you're
that?
with somebody, do you feel calm and do you feel at peace and at home? Or do you feel, is your heart beating 1,000 times? Like, they say, oh, when your heart's racing and oh, it's love meant to be, it's at first sight. not so much.
Mm,
You know, that might be the excitement, but you kind of really just want to feel like you're at home in your own skin. You
yeah.
don't ever feel like you have to be somebody you're not at the sake of someone else, for the sake of someone else.
Yeah, because we do tend to put other people's happiness and joy and needs before our own. You know, when we're,
Especially if you are highly empathic, it's a hard one.
I know it. That's been the biggest lesson for me, you know, because we have with like that bleeding heart
It's like,
and we want to forgive because we understand that the idea of mercy, having extending mercy, it's like we want people to extend that to us. So we naturally want to give that to people, but we have to discern wisely.
the biggest thing for me to try to understand was, well, how, I mean, why don't they just think how, I don't understand. Why is it so hard to be like so compassionate or so loving? But it made me really understand the amount of pain and suffering that that other person is going through that like you don't know or they don't want to talk about, where it's not your fault. You know, that saying like, it's not you, it's me. And I think it's almost like society has put this like stipulation on if to take care of yourself is being selfish, where it's really not. You're just kind of remembering who you are so that you stay who you are and you stay true and authentic to you. So you're not overextending yourself. You're not going against boundaries. So you stay in line with who you're supposed to be.
Yes, exactly. And for a lot of people, they never really had their own identity. You know, all of us are operating off of an identity, which is our personality, which has been shaped by the time we're 7 by your tribe.
Right, and depending, do you have a voice? Were you told to be quiet a lot as a kid? Were you able to speak your voice? Freely express how you feel, or were you shut down? All that comes into play. Did you have addiction present in your family? Because addiction is the biggest thing. Those energetics carry through familial lines.
Absolutely. And there's a lot to be said about epigenetics, and there's just
So much.
so much out there that people can research. And I think that goes back to like what you were saying about knowing yourself, really, really desiring to understand yourself, all of our little idiosyncrasies. Why do we want what we want? Why do we do what we do? What triggers us? I know that when you're in a relationship, as long as you were, and dealing with a person like that, there's the mental, emotional, spiritual, and sometimes physical abuse. But I don't think that you dealt with physical abuse with them, correct?
No, I
Okay.
didn't have physical abuse. No, thank God. I didn't
Right.
have physical abuse.
But the other
man,
abuse
the
is,
words cut like a knife. And I wasn't raised like that at all. So then it makes me go, well, how the heck did I even end up in this situation? Because I didn't grow in a home like this.
yeah, you didn't see, your father didn't treat your mother like that, even though, like you said, they
No,
had that old school sort of paradigm relationship. It wasn't like this, where it's this
no.
mental, emotional bullying and making you second guess yourself and
The
gaslighting and
gaslighting, yes.
stonewalling and just all of that. Is I had no idea how much damage that actually causes a human being until I
It's
was
bad.
like out of it.
Yes,
And that,
exactly.
oh
Right.
my
Where I
God.
see people in it now, and I'm just like, I love you and I have compassion for you. And, if you're in it now, people can tell you and they can give you advice, but you have to go based on your own feeling, whether it's time to get out or depending on your situation. Obviously,
Sure.
if you're getting beaten, you need to get out. Yeah, I mean, no matter what, you need to get out. And everybody's different. Kids, are you working? Are you not working?
Right.
What's your situation? Every situation is so unique and different.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes we can't do it alone. And
Exactly.
if it is that bad, I understand why people fear seeking help, but there are people that know, especially in extreme situations, like how to handle it. And even like for yourself, as you were coming out of this, you relied on yourself a lot, but you also had a community, and you at some point got to a place where you were wanting to share your knowledge and your testimony with others. So I
And
really,
that was even a fear. That was even a fear because it was like, well, I don't want to be like, talking bad about anybody, but it's like, but this is my story. You can't take away my story.
oh, I know. I totally understand that, because as a woman, being in the line of work that you and I are in, it makes sense for us to share it. And there will be those that are like, oh, they're not over it. And oh, if they're so mindful, then why do they keep bringing in? It's like, no, we're not coming from a
No, I'm
place of
not.
victimization
Right.
anymore.
Exactly. I feel like if I did not share my story and the way that I was able to pull through, I'd be doing a disservice to those that are hurting and need hope.
Mm, Yes, that need hope. And that is what you are. And you have been working daily and diligently because, as you said, it's a continuous journey. The layers continue to peel off as you level up and grow and get wiser. There's more learning to be had.
Oh yeah. And
And
crying, there's lots of crying.
oh,
That's normal. You have to cry. It's a release. You feel it. I mean, cry, 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 cry. I cried so much. I wrote so much. I
mm,
still cry. I cry a lot now with a sense of like, thanks, grateful.
yes, it's grace.
And my heart really goes out to say, I knew I had to get out because something was off. This is not how I was raised. And this is not what I wanted for myself. And it's not what I wanted for my daughters.
That's true because you have 2 daughters.
Right. But what if, you have a female who that's all they witnessed in their parents' relationship, where sometimes like that's all they know. They don't really know any differently. Where for me, I was like, okay, I know that this is wrong and this is not okay, but I don't know how to get the heck out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, honestly, the affair that was done, it was hell, but at the same time, it was a blessing.
It's so beautiful when you can get to the point of being able to say that and really feel it in every
Oh,
cell
yes.
in your body,
Yes. Because 3 years ago, no, I wasn't a blessing.
Right? You were like, this is
I
the
wanted my
worst.
marriage, my family. Yes, I was like, okay. I mean, I would walk outside and just, you're frozen. You're literally frozen.
Yeah, fall to pieces. I'd be driving sometimes, and then something would trigger me. It could be a song, it could be anything. And it was like I just had to pull over and just have the rageful cry or
Mm-hmm.
or the screaming or whatever it is that I needed to do. And even though it looked really ugly, it was also really beautiful at the same time because afterwards I could feel it was a release. And I didn't
Right.
want, and it really did at first bother me how much rage there was. And when that would hit me, what that flowed out like, and all this stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
I almost got to a place where it was like, I shouldn't be saying that. I shouldn't be thinking that. And luckily, God was able to walk me through that too.
Right. And what I also want to say is be careful of the support system you do have.
Oh, thank
Make
you.
sure the support system you do have is not toxic or judgmental. They're healthy.
That is a huge point. Be careful who you share that space with, because one time and I understand, but I had a friend visiting me just 6 months after the shit hit the fan with my husband and everything, and she's really big on prescription pills, you know what I mean?
Right.
And she happened to be there when I was having a moment, and it was one of those kind of ugly cries, but I had already
Right.
experienced it enough that I allowed myself the space to do it. And then she was like,
Exactly.
oh my God, girl, maybe you're really, really, really depressed. Like maybe you need to get on some medication. And in my own mind, I just kind of giggled. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And not because I thought it was silly, because sometimes people need medication, but people are just so inclined to want to, don't feel that, like numb that. You don't want to. And I'm like, no, I need to get it
Right.
out of my system because otherwise it's going to stay stuck
Exactly.
in me and I'm going to meet some other dude
Yes.
that's going to help me
Yes.
play this shit out again. So
Exactly. You got to feel the heal. You got to just let it go.
is there anything else that you would like to touch on as we wrap up this episode?
I think, the biggest thing for me is pay attention to your body and how it feels. Do you feel frozen? Do you feel stuck? Or do you feel like there's no clarity? You can't make a decision. Those are all indicators of something is off.
Yes.
Are you breathing freely? Or are you short of breath? Do you question your self-worth?
Yes.
It's a big one.
That is a big one. And I think that's something really beautiful to consider as we go into this new year. You are going to be my last episode of 2019.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Going out with a bang. No, I'm kidding.
Seriously, going
That's
out
funny.
with a bang. You are now officially a part of the Sacral Circle Sisterhood Brotherhood.
I love that.
So please let our listeners know how they can get in touch with you.
Oh, yeah, you bet. You can email me at Elisha, ELISHA, at Alchemy, ALCHEMY, Flow, FLOWATX.com.
Any last words here as we say goodbye?
Just don't stop believing in yourself. If you're in a predicament that I was once in, don't give up. Don't give up on yourself, ever.
Thank you, Elisha. I hope you have a beautiful holiday.
You too.
And thanks again for being with us.
Oh, thank you too. Thank you for your time. You're so sweet.
And thank you to our beautiful listeners for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the Sacred Stories podcast on iTunes, where you'll find other impactful and inspiring shows. Connect with me via social media. Just search at The Sacral Circle. Your shares and likes are greatly appreciated because they help spread the love. As we say goodbye, always remember to know your worth and continue to love and value yourself wholeheartedly. Peace be in you.